I'm just standing
All
there
things
passing out
are
flyers.
letters.
Make sure you know it. If you have it, please don't go to, you know where your polling place is. I took out a little book.
This wasn't yours, was it?
If they didn't know.
We are live, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. The hour being 5:30 on Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. I will now call the Public Works and Service Committee meeting to order. Mr. Fritzloff, may I have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alder Jones.
Present.
Alder Land.
Here.
Alder Paffrath.
Here.
Alder Sebastian.
Here.
Alder Perez. Present.
Thank you, sir. And first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for our October 25th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
The motion is second to approve the minutes from October 25th, 2022. Any questions, corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our first item is 0813-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Assistant Commissioner of Public Works, submitting bid results for 2023 parking maintenance services. Staff recommendation that the service contract be awarded to Four Seasons LLC in the amount of $165,565, they being the lowest responsive bidder.
Did you skip one, Marty, or did I just not pay attention? On the first page there? Just kinda
I
the
have
bottom
page
of the first page?
one,
Should be 2023 parking maintenance services.
813-22. Should be on the first page.
Okay.
Fiscal note, funds to defray the cost of this contract are available in 2023 or at object 60383-52200 contracted services. Mr. Fritzloff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the first of two items. As we discussed before with this committee, starting January 1, we have no more parking employees. So we have no means to maintain or do really anything with the parking system. This is the first of one of those items that has to do with maintenance, including snow and ice control, mowing, and mulching. We put a bid out there. We got two bids out of, well, we got three bids actually. Four Seasons ABM and Winter Services. Four Seasons was the low bid. As an aside, Four Seasons has done our mowing and our snow and ice control last year as well. They were just low. They're in town. They were the low bid. So these numbers are based on an average winter of 18 snow events and 27 plowing or salting events. So that's where that $165,565 comes from. So in the case of mowing, that's based on 30 mows over a season. So for each property, and there are about 19 properties that we mow, that's we'll mow each one of those 30 times. And mulching is once a year. So gotta keep the look of those facilities up and going with. So I would request that we recommend that the contract be awarded to Four Seasons LLC based on the bid results and no.
Thank you. Alder Perez.
Thank you, man. So you said we have 19 different things that they cut grass on?
Yeah.
What are the other things they do? Or where?
Four Seasons?
It says parking maintenance. What does parking maintenance services mean?
You're looking at the wrong memo, I believe.
No.
You should have
Top one?
oh, so I know what you're saying. So parking facilities. So all of our surface lots, we have grass. All of our parking areas, we have grass. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
When I say parking facility. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. So parking, so mulching, doing a seasonal mulch at those facilities to make sure they're kept, looking in good repair. And then of course, the snow and ice control around all of those facilities, which includes the sidewalks near those facilities and the lots themselves. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sebastian.
Please, and thank you. So on the average, based on 5-year age and South Point, so for example, if this year happens to be higher, does that number change was?
Yeah, there's really no other way to do it. I took like the rolling average of the last 5 years. It could be higher. Last year was kind of we didn't have as much last year, so it could be higher, it could be lower. And it is what it is. So we had to kind of come up with a number. So that's where that came from.
Thank you very much.
But does that mean that we have to pay more if they
It's
do more?
possible. Yeah.
Oh, no,
So we'll
that
pay
change
the-
order then?
No, we'll pay it on a monthly basis.
Uh-huh.
So we'll know, and I already talked to the finance director and assistant finance director about this. So on a monthly basis, we'll know if we're getting over or if we're not. So I don't think that this is really a service contract, so I don't know that there's going to be a change order needed. It'll just be done, at an as needed basis. Is how we'll go about it.
Any further questions from committee members? If not, all those in, excuse me, I will entertain a motion. Get ahead of myself. I will, is there a second? I'll second. Motion and second to approve item 0813-22. Seeing no further questions, comments, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Our next item is 0820-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Department of Public Works, submitting bid results for contract 2022125-2022 CCTV sewer inspection. Staff recommends that the contract be awarded to Green Bay Pipe and TV LLC in the amount of $399,044.71, they being the lowest responsive bidder. Fiscal note funding is available in the following. $125,000 will be in the sanitary sewer, $125,368.61 sewer manhole funds, $148,676.10 in storm sewer. Mr. Molitor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is basically an annual project that we do. All of these, we only had one bidder. Green Bay TV and Pipe has done this for us for years. We do go out to bid for it every year. Sometimes we get 2, sometimes we get 3. But Green Bay TV has been our main source of this service for quite a while. They were high, mainly because we were late in the year getting this out. So it will be kind of winter work. We do have, and all these funds, if you notice, are coming out of sanitary sewer and storm sewer, which are either the maintenance funds or, storm sewer funding. So, the money, it's basically surplus money that we already have. And we're going to, when we have enough to cover it. And that's, so if the committee agrees, we recommend we award the contract.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion and second to approve item 0820-22. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our next item is 0825-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Assistant Commissioner of Public Works, submitting bid results for 2023 parking operations services. Staff recommendations that the contract be awarded to ABM Industry Groups in the amount of $419,443.44. They being the lowest responsive bidder. Fiscal note, funds to defray the cost of this contract are available in the 2023 Court Object 60383-52200 contracted services. Mr. Prinsloo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the second part of our parking services deal. And this is the operations section. So we had went out for bids on this one as well, and it included meter services and coin revenue collection. So they're collecting coins, they're maintaining our obsolete meters for 1 year, and And that's what that particular item is about. Janitorial services at the ramps, which is going to be occurring once a week. In case you've been in any of our ramps, and, in particular McMinn, they are not in a good state of repair in terms of the janitorial. There's an element there that's creating some problems, let's just put it that way. And we're trying to deal with it. Then we have some window washing. We do that once a year at the ramps, and we're going to power wash them as well because, as I discussed earlier in my previous statement about the problems we're having, it'll be nice to have a power wash every once in a while there. So that part of it, Four Seasons and ABM both submitted bids on those. In this case, the low bid was ABM at $419,443.44. Once again, to Ms. Alder Perez's points earlier, I've listed in here how we're going to pay these. So meter services is monthly, janitorial once a week, and then window and power washing will be once per year. So that would be the frequency under which we're going to pay these. Janitorial, window washing, power wash. None of these should require like a change order or an overage like the service contract we discussed before. They should be pretty well set in stone. And we recommend that we award to ABM Industry Group based on the results I've discussed.
Thank you. Alder Perez?
So what do you do with the cars that have paid for overnight parking or 24-hour parking, like at McMinn? Some of the residents actually have cars and they pay for a space.
So we generally give them at least 2 to 3 weeks notice. We'll send out a notice to all of them. ABM right now tracks all of those rentals.
Mhm.
So we know how to contact them and similar to, we did a big project on at McMinn with the purchasing agent earlier this year. Similar to what we're going to do with this contract, only it was spiced up a little bit. We had to really do some down and dirty cleaning in there. So what we did was give them about 2 weeks, said, hey, on this date, please don't park here. We're going to be, cleaning and doing whatever we're going to be doing. And everybody was very accommodating to that. I think they understood that we're trying to get things cleaned up down there. So that's how we'll let them know.
What's the average cost for a day? Like $7 a day?
For like a
24-hour
monthly
day?
parker.
Yeah.
I think I'll have to get back to you.
But do we reimburse them for that? Since we're not permitting them to park there, they pay for it?
I don't think we did. We probably should. That's a good point.
Okay.
I'll double check with ABM on that. We may have.
You got,
I
maybe
just-
it's just for chickens.
So we don't just shove them to a different spot.
Well, yeah, if they're cleaning one particular floor, we could say, okay, you park up here, but if we're doing kind of a massive cleaning on all floors, then we'll ask them not to be there.
Alder Patrick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a parking spot in the ramp at, what's the ramp on the- Shoot, thank you. I can't think of words, in the Shoot ramp. And I noticed recently that Parks was cleaning it. So is this a new contract? Or have we always had bids go out for contracted services, or is it something that's?
No, this is brand new and it's
This
for
is new.
1 year only.
Okay,
To some degree, John has outlined a little bit about what that plan is moving forward with the parking system with reset and some of the concessions planning that's going on, which is why we're doing this on a monthly basis, because things could change pretty quickly. So we have the option to say, okay, we'll give you 30 days notice, we're done with this. So that's why all these are done. We're going to pay them all on a monthly basis.
so if it's not working, you can change.
Well, I don't expect that it's not going to work. What I do expect might happen is the parking system might go in a different direction. If you remember what John was talking about, monetizing. And so if that happens, we can react to it where we're not locked into like a 2 or 3 year contract where we have to essentially pay them to do nothing. So this gives us the flexibility to say, okay, 30 days, we're done, bing, bang, boom, and we move on with whatever the city deems necessary for in terms of monetization or not.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, and so the contract for operations and for maintenance, those are both new this year in
Yes.
2023.
Yes, ma'am.
Prior
Yeah,
to that, it
Brian,
was provided by the city,
yes, it was provided by the city, but
sort
you
of.
know, quite frankly, we weren't doing a great job of it. So the decision was, and we no longer, like I said, as of, we had 2 parking employees leading up to December 31st of this year. We're going to have none starting January 1. So we needed to do something to recognize that we need to maintain these facilities as well. So that's where this came from.
Okay. And if constituents have concerns about cleanliness of the ramps, then ABM would be their point person for contact.
That's correct. They can always contact the city and me because I'll be managing ABM.
Okay,
So if there's a question, they can contact me as well.
okay, thank you.
That answer all your questions? Alderman,
Did the parking employees get laid off or reassigned or retired or what?
They are the 2 remaining employees retired or are retiring. So given the cuts that happened previously, 2 employees can't keep up with it anyway. So the logical thing was just to go to contracted services. There doesn't appear to be an appetite to hire new parking employees as employees of the city. So this is the direction we're taking.
Alderman Perez, did you have another question?
No, man.
Discussion? Seeing no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion and second to approve item 08325-22. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. The next item is 0826-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Department of Public Works, submitting bid results for contract 2022164, Racine Island Park Dock. Staff recommendation that the contract be awarded to Direct Management Company LLC in the amount of $147,208, they being the lowest responsive bidder. Fiscal note, funding is available in the following report objects: 45050-57110, parks land improvement. Mr. Pritchard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tom Molbeck says he's not gonna be able to be. He's at Martin Luther King Center, I think, tonight doing an event. So I'm going to take his place on this one. So on Wednesday, November 2nd, we did take bids on a dog park for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services Department, and we got 5 bids. The low bid happened to be Direct Management Company LLC at $147,208. They being a low bid and funding being okay for this particular project, we would recommend approval.
Alderman,
Where in Island Park is the dog park going to be located?
So if you know where coming off of Memorial Drive, you know where Rickman Court is, kind of down in that where the Quonset hut is. It'll be right behind that, across the street from the pavilion. Does that make sense?
Baseball fields in the pavilion and the dog park will be on that side.
So the ballpark will be on the east side of the road.
The dog park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alderman Perez.
So we own the island, right? Why is it so expensive? The last time I was at a dog park, all I had was a fence, a couple of benches and a couple of rolling things.
It's a fence. It's an extension to an asphalt path. And the answer to your question is things are more expensive. I mean, the bids came in pretty competitive. I can't complain about that. But it's also late in the year, and we got materials issues with steel now. So
Are they expanding lighting?
no, there's not doing any lighting. It's just fence, pathway, and some other aesthetic items on there. This is what the market is telling us. That's all I can say.
It seems kind of high to or
Yeah, they originally had budgeted $60,000 in there.
Yeah. it's 3 times as much almost?
Yeah, and what Tom told me was that they have, in this particular account, because they didn't really spend much out of it, they've got plenty of money to cover it. I don't know where the idea came from to do a dog park there, but you know, these are the bids we received, so. And I think with 5 bidders, it was pretty competitive. If it maybe 1 or 2, then maybe I would say probably not a recommendation, but, you know, if you look at these, you know, they're, you know, between, except for that Payne and Dolan one, which is a little bit of an outlier. So
I looked at that.
they're all pretty kind of in the same area within about 50,000. So I'm not going to hesitate to recommend approval on that one.
On the way.
When will we expect this dog park to be completed?
Won't start till next year. Likely. So here's the thing. The Parks Department has a lot of projects that they want me to get bid out before the end of the year. So I don't know exactly what the reasoning is, but I'll get them out before the end of the year. There will be change orders coming to this body regarding the timing of those projects. So for instance, this one, you're going to see a change order that says we need to extend the date, you know, for completion. Because coming up on winter, asphalt is going to probably in the next couple of weeks, they're going to start putting asphalt.
Friday,
down. So,
they're
Yeah.
shutting, Friday, they're shutting rocks out.
so, but there's a big push for some reason to get these projects out. I'm glad to help the parks whenever I can.
Any further questions from committee members? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve item 0826-22. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our next item is 0819-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the purchasing agent, submitting bid results for 2023 sweeper material storage, transport, and disposal services. Staff recommendation is that the 2023 contract be awarded to Waste Management, Inc. in the amount of $54,388, they being the lowest responsive bidder. Physical note, funding to defray the cost of this contract are available in 2023 Court Object 60484-52215 Waste Disposal. Mr. Fritzloff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is part of our transition plan for the year 2023, as we're going to be trucking both municipal solid waste and sweeper material out to another facility. So in this case, this is specifically for our sweeper dumps. And the idea here is we're going to be having strategically placed dumpsters throughout the city. And our sweepers will dump into those particular dumpsters, which will be hauled off by a contractor. In this case, the low bidder would be Waste Management at about $54,000. And once again, this is for 1 year. This is in our transition period while we're going through building our transfer site, which we won't have this after 2023. So, so this would be Waste Management was the low bid and recommend approval of their based on their bid results.
All of the rest?
How many locations about the 6?
6,
Should you do this place?
yes.
Does the sweeper, is it that thing that goes around like that
Street sweepers, yes, sir.
and leave that streak of like dirty water as they go?
Yes, sir.
What, how do they collect to be able to dump?
So right now, what we do is they dump on the road
Uh-huh.
in other strategic locations.
Okay.
And we have a crew made up of an end loader and a 5-yard dump. And what they do is they pick those up and they truck them out to Kestrel Hawk. So what we don't want to do is get in the business of trucking again out to, you know, wherever the heck we're gonna go. So that was the whole reason for, putting this contract together. So we didn't want to stress our fleet out and, quite frankly, I think 54,000, when you compare it to what it cost for us to do that additional trucking and extra manpower, it's a pretty good deal.
What kind of debris does it pick up? Does it pick up leaves?
Leaves, debris, dust, pine needles, dirt, whatever's in the gutters,
In the road.
So we have to characterize that material at once every couple of years for the landfills so that they know what they're getting. But it's really anything that's kind of in that roadway area. Can't really think of anything else. It's just the dirt and leaves and whatever else.
Paper bottles.
Absolutely.
Any questions from committee members? Entertain a motion.
Second.
Motion is second to approve item 0819-22. Seeing no further questions, comments, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item is 0815-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Assistant Commissioner of Public Works requesting to waive formal bidding for the purchase of Case Wheel Motors vehicles. Staff recommendation that the request to waive formal bidding procedures for the purchase of wheel loaders for the city be approved. Fiscal note funding to the freight cost of these materials is available in the 2023 or object 45140-57311 DPW equipment vehicles. Mr. Christoph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a waive formal bids for a Case wheel loader that will be placed at the new transfer station. So we have $375,000 in the capital budget for this particular item. We pretty much exclusively use Case for a couple of reasons. Number one, ease of maintenance. They're right here in town and they are local. So it is a good deal for us. In this case, my fleet maintenance manager, Nick Becker, I got to throw a kudos out to him. He found actually a brand new 2022 wheel loader that's ready to go. So we don't have to have anything manufactured. We don't have to wait a year for product. We don't have to wait for anything to be built. It is ready to roll in the configuration in which we need it. So that's the whole purpose surrounding this particular item. We need to get that end loader ready and delivered for our transfer station operations.
Thank you. Alder Perez.
So this end loader, it says here in the memo, negotiate a price for it. You talked about them being local. What is the relationship between negotiating a price and what you said about them? And why no bid? Are you going directly through the factory or a dealership that is low?
It goes through Miller Bradford. Miller Bradford is they're the ones that sell Case equipment.
Mhm.
So he negotiates those prices with them. And in this case, I don't think we're gonna necessarily get a better price. If we went to, for instance, a Cat or a Komatsu or what have you, I don't think it would be smart for us to do that anyway, because we have all Case equipment. So we'd end up paying, we'd end up having to get all new spare parts. We've already got a parts section that's pretty well stocked. From a financial and common sense standpoint, I think this is the best route to go.
So we wouldn't be violating our own ordinances as long as we approve that it's a no bid contract?
I don't believe we would be violating our own ordinances. Scott?
Yeah, no, there are circumstances like this one where if the council approves sole source purchase, it can be done. I mean, an example I like to use is if we need to do something with the locks, all the locks came from one place, we're going to replace it with the same kind of locks we have. So if Case equipment is what they've been using, it just makes sense from a maintenance and usage perspective. It's okay as long as the council approves it and there's a rational explanation you can accept.
Questions on Perez?
So question I had, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
The motion and second to approve item 0815-22. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Our next item is 0824-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Assistant Commissioner of Public Works requesting to waive formal bidding for the purchase of Nina Foundry sewer-related materials. Staff recommendation that we waive formal bidding procedure for the purchase of Nina Foundry product be approved. Physical note, this negotiation will be done on an as-needed basis with funding available in Art Object 22640-57560 sanitary sewer and Art Object 60484-57570 storm sewer. Mr. Richlaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been talking a lot this meeting. So here's another waive formal bids for sanitary sewer and storm sewer castings. So inlet covers, sanitary manhole covers, things of that nature. That is what we use here in the city of Racine. That is how we maintain our particular, our system is with those particular castings. That is what we spec out in our engineering department for new castings. So I'm requesting to waive formal bids on this particular item for those reasons.
Not for the reason that they're the sole supplier of it? Because that would make much more sense.
I don't know if they're a sole supplier.
Yeah, they're not.
That's what it says in the memo. So is the memo wrong? That's fine.
They're the sole supplier of Nino
Yeah.
castings, but there are other manufacturers of castings, like East Jordan and a couple others, but Nina is the closest. Nina is what we have throughout the city. So if a lid breaks or gets lost, that's what they're gonna call and get a replacement for, because an East Jordan lid isn't gonna fit on a Nina casting.
So they are the sole provider.
I think you need to leave with that one. They're the sole provider, okay. No more questions, man. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Perez. Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. The motion is second to approve item 0824-22. Seeing no further questions, comments, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Our next item is 0816-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Assistant Commissioner of Public Works Operations submitting the 2023 summary of lease agreement for office space. Staff's recommendation that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized and directed to enter into 2023 lease agreements for rentals, office space in City Hall Annex, and the safety building at the rental rates as submitted. Physical note, rental rates will increase in 2023 due to the consumer price index increasing by 6.1%. These leases will generate a total annual revenue of approximately $147,336.67. Mr. Pritzlaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have here for your review the proposed rental rates for all of our leases at the Annex Safety Building and in City Hall. We are proposing they go up 66.1% based on the CPI.
Any questions? Alder Sebastian.
Quick question, and this actually goes back to budget and so as you're looking at the nonprofits and I see the nonprofit rate versus the standard rate. So would these nonprofits for rentals go into the per in lieu of taxes category as far as So for example, in the budget, so you have the per annuity taxes, so I assume that had to do with nonprofits. So with these nonprofits, with their rate and renting from here, how does that work with taxable income based on, as far as their rental space, or how that works with taxes here or anything like that? Or is that just a non-issue and I'm just thinking too far deep?
I don't believe they pay taxes.
Right, they should, I mean, they don't, so it's just the standard rate has nothing.
If
to do
you're
with it.
thinking about payment in lieu of taxes, like for a water department,
Well, I was,
thing.
right, I was just thinking like
Um,
nonprofits, because they don't pay taxes, so I was just kind of thinking how that, if those are the same things or not.
to be honest, when I calculate these, I don't consider that at all.
Okay,
I'm just considering the rental rate that we have charged,
okay,
all the maintenance that goes into things, and I compute it based on that. So,
okay.
I can certainly ask the question and see what,
Oh, I was just curious as to what that looked like as far as with Texas and nonprofits and what that meant, so. It's not urgent.
I would assume that they can deduct it if they're, I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
Attorney, let me reach you.
Not entirely sure I understand the question.
So I was just wondering, and again, the budget book was new to me, so as I'm looking at, in per lieu of taxes, so the first thing that comes to my mind in my background is nonprofits, right? Because nonprofits don't pay
Sure.
taxes. So as I'm looking at them, being non-taxable, renting space from the building at a nonprofit rate, how that equates it all to either, overall tax deduction, or, just
Yeah,
what.
well, I mean, I'm not a tax attorney. I
Yeah.
can't speak to their own tax situation, but a payment in lieu of taxes
Yeah.
is kind of a different thing. So
Okay.
if there's an entity that, we'll sometimes have developers that the city that provide some financing for, and they build a building, and we want to make sure they're going to pay property taxes on it forever.
Mhm.
So we have a provision that says there would be a payment in lieu of taxes if they ever become 501(c)(3) or something that's a nonprofit. They agree they will continue to pay the same amount that property taxes would have been had they not become a nonprofit. So that just makes sure that the city keeps getting the money to provide the services the city provides through property taxes. So, I mean, it could be any kind of charitable organization. So that's typically what that is. I haven't seen the memo, so I'm not sure if it's something. that-
No, it's just me and my brain asking a
Okay.
question at the committee level as opposed to in front of common council. Okay,
But I mean, any nonprofit, if it's going to use space, it's going to have to pay rent.
right, I would just,
Essentially, they're just getting a pretty good deal.
yeah, absolutely, for sure. I just didn't know how that worked in the tax ways of things. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Alderman,
Why is there no lease period for Toys for Tots?
There is. It's July through July.
It's not listed,
What's that?
it's not listed on the form.
I think it's because.
Toys for Tots is right here.
The lease period is empty.
It's July through July.
We've often done Toys for Tots separately from all the other.
Right, that's why I'm asking, there's no, yeah, okay. So what's Racine County 911? What do they have there?
It's over in the safety building.
What is it?
It's dispatch.
Dispatch.
I thought they just had to draw someplace west of nine.
No, you call 911, it goes to this dispatch right here.
The main dispatch center is out at Ives Groves. There's an alternate site that was here when dispatch was transferred from the city and the other municipalities to the county. They just have an alternate site here, but if there were ever an emergency, the power's out, they could come here and do it. I'm not sure they've ever actually needed it, but it's there.
They pay a lot of rent.
That's good. Okay,
They sure do. Any further questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Second. It's been motion and second to approve. Item 0816-22. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Our next item is 0821-22, communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Assistant Commissioner of Public Works, submitting Amendment 3 to the recycling contract with John's Disposal Service, Inc. Staff recommendation that the Amendment 3 be approved for 1 year. Fiscal note, funding to defray the cost of this amendment is available in the 2023 Art Object 22140-52200 contracted services. Mr. Pritzlaff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. City of Racine entered into a 5-year agreement with John's Disposal in 2012. That agreement has been subsequently amended 2 times through December 31st of this year. So we needed a new contract to begin the next year. So I think what we're looking to do is go into a 1-year contract. So John's is the closest facility in terms of a material recovery facility, or MRF. And the proposed 2023 rates are for 1 year, $98.50 a ton for processing costs. Glass disposal is $18 a ton, and residue disposal is $45 a ton. The processing cost has gone up significantly. That is not a surprise. What happened was, when we signed that second amendment, we signed it right before China stopped accepting these materials. So we were the beneficiary of very low rates, and we were actually making money on our program, while others theirs were starting to get stepped up in terms of the processing cost per ton. So we got a little bit lucky as far as that last contract goes. In terms of the charges, so the actual cost is about $60 or $40 more a ton than what we were paying. So we were doing okay there for a while, and then of course we have fuel and all these other adjustments for inflation and what have you. So our cost is going to effectively double, and what I will say is that is not a surprise. That was expected. If I did check with the city of West Dallas, who did recently have one of these bids, they were at $95 a ton. So, and that's the same with the same company. So, and the MRF for them happens to be a little closer. So we're about $3 more a ton than them. So we are gonna, I'm okay with the price that they've quoted. I don't think we'll get a better one. Even if we did, we'd have to haul longer routes, and it wouldn't be effective for us anyway in our transition program, because our fleet's going to be stressed out as it is. So I would recommend moving forward on a 1-year basis with John's proposal, and we will renegotiate this once the transfer station is built, whether that's done with a trucking company or a trucking company and the recycler. It remains to be seen. We'll have to see how that goes. But in this particular case, I would recommend just going with the 1-year option.
Alder Perez.
Number 3 on your memo, physical number 3, third of the page down. The numbers have a negative sign in front of them. What does that mean?
Yeah, so the city's contract, so -20 per ton is the number that, let's see here. Yeah, so that $20 per ton is the additional charge for charge of $20 per ton. That's an additional charge of $20 per ton for a processing cost. So what that's just saying is just that their costs have gone up. So we're currently in the -20 based on what a normal price might be, but it's actually the $60 more. Does that make sense?
No. But by -20 means you have to pay the additional 20? Is that what the -20 means?
Yes.
So it's written as a negative, but it's something you have to pay.
So it's a negative for them.
Oh,
That's what it's saying.
okay.
So it's a -20 for them, meaning we get an additional, $20 per ton. And it's a negative, but it's actually a -60. So what we're paying now is $20 off from what it should be. You know what I'm saying? So, or $20 off, but it should be actually $60 is what their actual costs are to process material.
So they're giving us a deal?
Right now they are.
Okay.
But not as far, once we
Not
sign
moving
this
forward.
contract, we're not getting a deal. But
Okay.
we're getting the standard deal, if you will.
Does that answer your question, Alan Perez? Any further
I'll
questions
clarify
from
that.
committee
email to
members?
you, sir.
Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll second.
It's been motion and second to approve item 0821-22. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is 0814-22. Communication sponsored by the chair on behalf of the Commissioner of Public Works, requesting permission to formally accept the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Clean Vessel Act grant. Staff recommendation that the Commissioner of Public Works be granted permission to approve and accept the grant. Fiscal note, this grant from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources is for $13,500 and will be used to offset the cost of purchasing and installing a new sanitary boat pump at the Dodge Street Pier. Mr. Bridgewater.
Actually, I was gonna say
Oh,
this one.
I am sorry.
That's- Thank you, Madam
Engineer
Chair.
Monitor.
She's supposed to call him
I
Mike.
think I'm so used to this.
I'm trying to give Ron a break.
Thank you.
This, basically, almost a year and a half ago, spring of 2021, we applied for this grant to replace the pump out station, which is just west of the Main Street Bridge of the north side of the river. It has not, the existing pump has not, it's basically for the boats, obviously, to pump out their onboard, systems and put it into the sanitary sewer system. That pump has not functioned for probably 3.5, possibly 4 years now. It took, I don't know why it took so long for them to approve this grant. It's really not a whole lot of money, but it finally came through. And it's basically a 50-50. We've already purchased the pump. We were told we could do that and then apply that purchase price to the grant amount. And then the only thing we had to pay for, or the only thing we had to wait for was hiring a contractor to install, basically just replace the pump and hose and install it all in the system that's already there. I recommend that we accept the grant and in the spring, we will get down to business and replace that system.
Thank you. Alderland.
Just curious, where are the boats putting their stuff now?
There's, most of the marinas have these, this service, but you have to belong to the marina or pay an extra surcharge. So ours is, the way ours runs is, it's on a, basically it's a coin or a dollar changer. It takes a $5 bill. And I think you get 20 minutes on this pump, and you can easily do a boat in 20 minutes, but it hasn't functioned in, like I said, in probably about 3.5 years. But I want to say of the 5 marinas that we have in town, I think 3 of them provide that service, but then you have to pay a surcharge if you're not a member of that marina. So
Okay.
I should put that in like 2008 or something like that. That was one of my
yeah,
projects.
it didn't last very long. Because oddly enough, right after we applied for this grant, we got a letter from the DNR asking how the last pump was doing, and I sent a letter saying we'll replace it. So,
Does that answer your question? Alderland?
Yeah.
Okay, any additional questions from committee members? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
A motion to approve.
Motion and second to approve item 0814-22. Seeing no further discussion or questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. And final item in this evening is 0837-22. Communication sponsored by the chair requesting that the Racine Ordinance, Chapter 18, Article 2, Division 1, Section 18-38 be amended to provide the authority to the building department to secure unsecured buildings, and that ordinance 0015-22 be approved. Recommendation that the Racine Ordinance, Chapter 18, Article 2, Division 1, Section 18-38 be amended to provide the authority to the building department to secure unsecure buildings, and that the ordinance 0015-22 be approved. Fiscal note, the cost of such work may be recovered by the city in an action against the owner or tenant, or cause such cost to be paid in levied as a lien against the property per Racine Ordinance Section 1838E. Attorney Letney.
Thank you, Dan. This proposed ordinance is an effort to fill a hole that exists in the ordinances right now. So start with two premises. There are unsecured, abandoned, unsafe buildings that may exist anywhere in the city of Racine. They may be damaged, maybe prior owners just moved out and abandoned them. Sometimes they're eyesores, sometimes they may be being used for various activities. And the police department, the building department get some complaints. The other concept that we need to address is this basic constitutional tenet that no one can be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So the desire is to be able to secure these buildings to prevent unsafe conditions generally, and maybe being used by people for some activities that we prefer not be used, or being graffiti or things like that. But because it's private property, the city, especially since the city is a governmental entity, can't just go on the property and do whatever we want. There's the right against search and seizure without warrant. So there's a whole bunch of provisions in the constitutional concepts that say we can't just go do whatever we want. We're trying to operate within both of those concepts. Right now, we have an existing ordinance that says if there are unsafe buildings, then the building department can go secure them because they're unsafe. This may someday end up in a building being raised and circumstances, and there's a process by which the building inspector has to notify the property owner, whether it's a residence or a business or something else, before they go do that. This would simply add unsecured buildings to the same ordinance. So using the process we had existing, adding unsecured buildings. I did attach a briefing memorandum to the agenda item that has what the ordinance would look like were it passed, some additional language in there. The way the process works essentially is that if there is a building that is unsecured, that the building inspector deems necessary to be secured by the city, and the building inspector has to attempt to notify the owner, has to in writing notify the owner, whether it's an individual or a trust or a business or whatever the case may be, directing the owner to secure the building. And if the owner does not within a reasonable time, then the building inspector may go in and actually secure the building. So that's the due process. We've given them an opportunity to do it. The concern that there's a police powers issue that we have that allows the city common council to direct by ordinance the city to address unsafe conditions, public welfare. Kind of, I can go deeper into it if you want, but this would allow then the building department to do that. So we're probably talking about the plywood, windows, and doors and things like that. So people can't into abandoned, unsafe, unsecure properties.
Thank you, Attorney Letney. Are there any questions from committee members? Alderman Perez.
Thank you, ma'am. Sure. So tried looking up some of the definitions of secure and unsecure. I mean, common sense dictates what it is. But is there a legal definition of what we're going to follow to make sure that due process is given?
Well,
Because I couldn't find them.
well, the process that would be involved here is to notify the owner and tell the owner, look, you have to secure the building. And then if the owner doesn't, then the city. So that's, we're not talking about a court hearing or something like that, which is another way to provide due process. It's actually providing notice, we've got an unsafe condition, we want you to take care of it, but if you don't do it, you're going to do it. It's almost similar to, well, the noxious weeds ordinance that we have. If you don't cut your weeds, we're going to do it, we're going to charge you.
But again, do we have an issue with not having an official definition for some of these words that we're trying to put in here?
Well, so we would ordinarily, when interpreting statutes or ordinances, we use the common dictionary definition. None of these terms have a unique definition in the law. So we could define what it means, but sometimes that actually makes it difficult to enforce the law because you need some flexibility
Right.
in all circumstances. So I will say that generally speaking, it's the neighborhood enhancement division that deals with these things, and they work with Assistant City Attorney Robin Zukowski easily on a daily basis with things. So they're not going to just go do this unless they've got some concurrence, let's say, from our office that in fact does meet the standards of the ordinance.
So I have a neighbor across the street who hasn't lived in the house for over a decade, but there's a hole in the asphalt or whatever that's called in the tiles up on the roof, and there's like raccoons living inside the house, come to the window and look, right? When people walk by. Would that be considered, the door is locked, but because there's a hole in the roof, would that be considered unsecured?
That may not be considered unsecured, but it may be considered a dangerous or unsafe building, which already exists within this ordinance.
Okay.
So there is a specific standard for when the building inspector, chief building inspector, can actually decide it's time to take a building down. It's got to be, repair costs be more than 50% of the value of it is essentially the standard. So
Okay.
it might not be unsecured, but it might be deemed unsafe.
Alder Sebastian.
Thank you. So as we're looking at the ordinances, so this is for obviously 38, 38. But as you look at, kind of 36, 37, and then 39, would that same language apply to those previous and afterwards as those are kind of incorporate? Because as I read them, they kind of all go together a little bit.
Yeah, that's, the intent is not to amend those other ordinances.
Right.
It is true, the whole section can be read together.
Right.
So this really is to address this one specific issue.
So then again, going towards, so, and obviously unsecure is obviously very unsafe. So, and again, just to reiterate, so then as going, so as that applies to existing buildings, alterations, repair, roofing, unsecure would apply to all those, that same thing as well. That's kind of what the platform.
Well, I don't want to overstate.
Okay.
This is intended to address a specific problem where you've got abandoned,
Right.
vacant, that kind of unsecure building. We're not talking about something that's in construction.
Right. So, again, just to ask again, because I'm the question answer, that.
Sure.
So I can't stop asking questions. But in order for something to, be raised or the city to become involved, that would, they would have to refer to 38 to, or like if ever, or 36 or 37, based on the language that we're altering in 38.
I have to pull the ordinance.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. So I make sure I'm giving you the correct.
Yeah,
While he's paying, I could just tell you, I've had issues with abandoned buildings in my district that they've had to come out and board up.
oh, I
And
completely.
young people with drug issues, they go inside
Mhm.
and they basically squat. And we've had some serious issues with them doing that.
Oh, it's
They've actually gone in homes that had been boarded, removed the boards and went in again. And so the police would have to come and make sure there's no one in there. they boarded up again and they would find a way to get in again, so.
Yeah.
It is a problem at some of the abandoned homes.
Oh, I see it everywhere I drive, so I completely understand that. That's why I guess I'm just thinking, when we're looking at existing, if we're looking at 1836, 1837, and back into 1839, how 1838, the language changing and that applies to those two prior. I think it would all make sense if they all come. together.
Well, they all would get read together, but they each apply in different circumstances. So,
Any further questions, Ms. Sebastian?
No, thank you for asking.
Oh, sure. Any further questions from the committee with Alder Patchcraft?
So I'm curious if there is a specific situation that's happening that obviously created the need to change the ordinance, that the building department is wanting to do some things that they can't, because to me, in the things that you just kind of described, unsecured buildings are unsafe. So why do we need to pull that language out that is already a little vague if in the situations you described, the things that I've seen it in our district, if it's unsafe, being unsecured is sort of part of that.
Sure, I mean, we've generally interpreted this statute before to be sort of a precursor to whether or not a property or building would be raised.
Okay.
So this is not intended to be that drastic of a circumstance.
Okay.
So, and I think, frankly, there have been another number of complaints lately where there are concerns about buildings that are just sort of open. They're in good enough condition, they wouldn't be raised. But somehow we've got to get in there lawfully and actually do something to prevent them from being used for inappropriate purposes.
And the fact that they're open doesn't raise to the level of being described unsafe.
Well, no, it could be unsafe, but I think the unsafe that exists is more like it's going to collapse.
Okay.
If somebody goes in, the floor is going to collapse,
Got it.
fall over, something like that. That's really what it comes
Okay. So the unsecure really is about what people entering unlawfully and doing in there,
I
rather
think
than
that-
the property structurally being unsafe.
Right, that's generally it, or you can see a property may be damaged partially by fire, but could be repaired.
Sure.
But it's still open, you don't want people going into it. And if the owner's not gonna do it, the city, and we may be worried about kids going in. things like
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. So then if I understand right, this is really predicated based on the current wording of unsafe, meaning one step before being raised.
Right, we're trying to expand.
Okay.
this, if you will.
Have there been issues where the city has wanted to board up a property and gotten pushback that it wasn't appropriate because the ordinance wasn't written this way?
We've gotten pushback as to whether the ordinance actually allowed that to happen.
Okay.
So, yeah, there have just been a number of properties lately where this was an issue.
Okay.
And sometimes it's hard to tell if a place is abandoned or, the owner may just be gone for a couple of months and somebody's broken in or something like
Okay.
that, so.
Okay. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Clarification. That's it. I'm good.
Any further questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you, Attorney Letty. I will entertain a motion.
One second.
It's been motion and second to approve item 0837-22. Seeing no further discussion, questions, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That concludes our agenda for this afternoon. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. I'm going to be right behind you.